So I get harassed about this one all the time, and people say, "Did MrBeast get equity in Honey?" No one's ever been too sure, but I always get the question. No, we did not have equity in Honey. We started working with Honey in 2017. Trust me, we tried to get equity. We believed in the company when we first heard about it. When we talked with their marketing director, the founder would not budge on giving us equity. They were already valued at over $1 billion at that point. They did not need our money to even let us invest. So we tried. That was the situation, where Jimmy and I were like, listen, we do need the money, but we're also willing to take some equity on the back end. Didn't end up working out. So just to address that one right off the bat, but Blake, what are some good examples of creators taking equity in companies and that actually panning out?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably like Shaq is notorious for
Hmm.
doing this, and I think actually in Shaq's case or some bigger celebrity examples that we'll probably touch on, it's more of them actually just leveraging the fact that they're famous and leveraging their access to get into these companies and saying, hey, I'm going to do endorsements and like Shaq with Ring is a good example, but there's I think going back to even the Honey example, there's a point where for Jimmy or Mr. Beast, as most people know him, he was at a point where he probably really prioritized cash, and
Yeah.
and I think from a founder's or from a company's perspective, they're super protective over equity, especially as it starts to become worth more. And I think that as a there is this like sort of perfect opportunity where when you're, I don't know, a Series A or Series B company, you might have just raised 10, $20 million, but you're not willing to pay a big creator for 10 videos or something like that. But you're like, look, maybe there's this perfect opportunity where we can say, hey, I'll give you I don't know, a quarter of a percentage or a half a percentage of this company in exchange for, I don't know, 5 or 6 videos. And obviously that's all just rough math, but the context or important thing to highlight there is that most early employees of companies are like, I don't know, let's say you're an engineer, like one of the first engineers at a software company. Getting half a percentage of equity means that you were like one of the first people there.
Yeah.
And those people are working there for 5, 10 years and putting in ridiculously long hours. And so to a creator, getting offered a half a percent or a quarter percent probably seems, like almost insulting, right? Like, because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm about to bring my entire fan base here. But that is where the biggest disconnect and sort of the biggest opportunity for this to really happen is when creators understand the value of equity and they're like, okay, wow, there's half a percentage that actually can be worth a ton. And the famous example that you and I were talking about off air was there's an example of, I think his name's David Cho. He's a graffiti artist, and he was being hired by Facebook, and I think this is like 2005.
Yeah.
And they hired him to do like a mural in the office in 2005, and he was he asked for $60,000, and I think at the time they'd only raised like $1 million or something dollars, and they're like, we're not paying you $60,000, but we'll pay you in equity if you want. And Sean Parker was the president of Facebook at the time, and he was basically like, I think you should take the equity. And I imagine to David Cho, the graffiti artist at the time, it was probably like, oh my gosh, like I would much prefer $60,000 in a startup that I have no idea if it's going to work. And obviously, this is the most extreme example,
Yeah.
but like that equity that he got for that service, I mean, I think it was when they IPO'd, it was worth $200 million. Let's say today, that's probably worth several $1 billion. So I think that is a perfect example of sort of the power laws. And yes, he lost $60,000 in the short term, but I mean, he's set for life, all from that one painting. So.
Yeah, you brought something up that's really interesting, and this is something that I've dealt with my clients and other clients in different companies, and I think some creators are just jaded in the fact that they think that if they're going to take equity in a company, it should be 10, 20, 30% of that company. And we have some software company coming in who just raised $1 million at a $10 million valuation. So for them to give up 10, 20, 30% of that company, for them is unfathomable. Like they would
Yep.
never do that, right? And so we've also lost out on a lot of deals because I think, our clients or other people have been a little too aggressive on the ask, where I think we could have taken, like you said, a percent, a half a percent, a quarter of a percent. it would have been small at the time. But people have to realize like these companies are raising capital to scale. It's not out of the ordinary for a company to go from a $10 million valuation to a $100 million valuation in under a year. And so we have lost out on deals for that reason. And so that's been, one frustration of mine. And we've had to educate some of our creators on it. And now we're not only taking equity in companies that we promote. If we truly believe in the company, a lot of times we're also writing a check into that company. And we've made multiple investments in different game studios and things like that. And that will continue to progress, I think, with this industry. But if you're a creator, like Mr. Beast, like in 2017, we needed the cash. We really did, and so we wanted equity. We wanted to supplement half and half, but we really needed the cash not only to operate, but to really film these crazy videos that Jimmy started to film in 2017, 2018. So looking back on it, yes, we would have loved to take all equity. We would have bit the bullet and been like, you know what, we'll take out a loan, we'll figure it out. But looking back on it too, like that money also helped us scale to where he is today.